Good morning, on this cold morning. I have a narrative here today really, which is one of the favorite things that I do in life. Which is I am a gatherer of stories, I am a teller of stories. And the idea of actually creating a story bank of memories for the wonderful institution that I work for really came from that. You know, we all have a lot of memories, and we sometimes believe that these memories are bad, sometimes we believe they are may stop us from going to the future, but I really do believe that they hold within them the power to help us to construct a almost a theory and framework in which we can hold our future. You know, I myself am the product, I think, of two sets of memories of a lineage that has both extreme nationalists, of which my family has been extremely proud, to a narrative of partition that was all about a lot of loss, a lot of anger, a lot of pain. And I really do believe that the person I've become, I can see how those threads have come together, the stories have come together to create for me not just pain, but joy and insight and finally power. When I joined CRI 22 years ago, I found that there was no formal orientation. All I was told were the stories of how we, you know, we are a story of resilience, we're a story of craziness, of audaciousness. We're an organization that started with 0 rupees, no big funds, nobody backing us. And today we are an organization that has supported almost 3 million children. We currently support about 6.5 lakh children. Where did that come out of? It came out of us, I think, constantly looking at what is it that we stand for at a core value while reinventing. So therefore, for me, you know, we ask ourselves, do we want to keep that madness? Do we want to keep that audaciousness? We do. And it's difficult to do when you are grown older. You know, those memories can sometimes be away. But how are those stories, for me, the stories that I've been told, that I am telling in turn, often tell me what is it that can help me through a terrible situation. What is it that can actually create something completely new? And really, therefore, are stories from the past empowering, but not inhibiting. That they both have the magic of their time, and often they get changed in the retelling, but also the magic of the future. So one of the things we decided to do was actually create for ourselves, saying if we are this collection of huge number of narratives, of the magic of all the people who have joined us, left us, worked as volunteers, worked with children directly, worked across the world for us, how do we kind of gather this storehouse? Because you realize you lose it. You know, somebody chooses to tell a story, somebody doesn't. So we created what we call the CRI Memory Project. And the whole construct of this is to recreate or create our history as we go along, but created from many voices. So, you know, you can have a history written by the CEO of the organization or of course, the victor in many cases. But can you bring in many voices? How do you get people to join in and give us all the narratives or aspects of a particular story and decide for ourselves what of that can we pull out? So one of the things we worked here with Anusha Yadav. She is the creator of the Indian Memory project. It's the first digital archive of the subcontinental stories. Sometimes it could be family, sometimes it could be an institution. And what we saw happening is magical, because we started finding that we chose 20 photographs from our 36 years, and we got the people around those photographs to re-narrate the stories. And you can't imagine the effect on those who were lucky enough to go and hear those stories. You know, just hearing that, you know, I used to have a tiny office in someone's bedroom, and you know, there were 10 chairs, but we had about 30 people, so they would play musical chairs. But hearing it from the musical chair person was of huge magic to, I think, our existing people who had the danger of seeing us as another office. You know, they walk in, there is a chair, and really it's, while it may be a higgledy-piggledy resource chair, people will complain it's not comfortable, etc. But when they hear there was no chair at all, you know, you could really see what happens when you do that. So I want to share some of these stories with you. This is our first card. As you know, Cry, the name itself has these 3 faces, and this has 3 children. One day, all we did was sell cards. And we were told that the warehouse we were in at that point is being shut down. In 24 hours, it's going to be locked out by the IT people. And people were weeping, trying to take the cards away, you know, saying, now can I like quickly save some income? But in that moment was born the idea that we would have to diversify. It was all very well to be weeping and picking up the cards and running, but really we needed to bring in different sources of income. So then that moment, that story to me has always been about finding incredible hope and a new way of doing something in a very bad situation. And I have seen, for myself, for example, experience that every time I'm in a hole. Initially, I'm like, oh, everything is terrible. And then you just think of this moment where people were sitting, you know, picking up these cards, and you say, in that moment, you actually figured out, I can now, how do I get the ordinary, the small Indian philanthropist to be born? And we gave birth to that idea in '94, which was, we said to the rickshawala and anybody, because frankly, at that time it was 240 rupees a year. Today it's 2,000 rupees a year. Anybody can do it. You know how philanthropy is something people always think of as someone who has a lot of money. But for Cry, the concept that everybody can be a philanthropist. You know, you can contribute, and that pool will be big enough and huge enough to be able to impact a lot of children. And how do you start doing that? So really it became about a search for what we call the everyday hero. The everyday hero who picks up a check and signs. I remember this little old lady, and I tell this story, we lost her a few years ago. Every year, once a year, she'd come to give her 200, all she could afford was the 240 rupees. She kept giving that. She would walk from Mahalakshmi station to our office. You know, little old thing she was. She would walk and she would say, I saved the money on the taxi because I needed to give you that money. You know, so as long as you are able to see, I think in everybody, that every one of us can be a hero. Every one of us can do something, can change. That is a huge, for CRY it is actually almost, it's become our, today we call it almost our raison d'etre. What I can do, I must do. And the second story actually is about Ajit Singh. Ajit was a young 19-year-old in Banaras. He said he noticed, you know, I remember he came to our office with this sheaf of photographs of missing children that he cut out from newspapers. He said, I want to do something about this. And we were like, okay, why don't you take money, a fellowship, by which you can fulfill your dal roti chawal, as we call it, and do what you want to do. So he's taken it upon himself to fight. He realized that these young girls were missing because they were being trafficked for prostitution. He has cleared his area near Banaras of the whole concept of child prostitution today. He has rescued close to 1,000 girls. More importantly, he's kind of become like this one-man legal army. He's put 26 people behind bars, and I know for you that number sounds, what is 26? Believe me, in this country, to be able to put anybody who's a trafficker into prison is not easy because the whole system complies. So there is Ajit, who started as that young boy, found, I think, the most incredible resources and ability to do that. The second story is of this young man called Pawan from Andhra Pradesh. Pawan very simply came to us with a research proposal. He was a school teacher actually. And he noticed that the children from the Lambada tribe were not able to learn. Very simply because they couldn't understand a word that their Telugu speaking teachers were speaking. And he then took it upon himself to do this entire research, create a dictionary, simple innovations. You know, a simple man finding a simple way to change something permanently, actually, for those children in that area. I think the other set of stories that we've all been brought upon, and it's a really difficult one for most people, is this concept of just ask. You know, people have the most incredible resources. What will they say? They'll say no, right? Somebody may have an idea you want. Somebody may have a motorcycle you want. We have a story in CRY about how there was this young man who was, you know, a dude. He had a motorcycle. He was not interested in children and this namby-pamby, you know, what is this looking after bachas? I don't want to do it. So we were like, Ripon was like, don't do it. But you know, you have a nice motorbike. Why don't you carry cards, just deliver them there. Just deliver that set there. So I think it's just constantly the stories of saying, ask. There are incredible resources around you. You know, and to me that's become a huge lesson for a lot of people who join CRY, who come from very privileged sections of society. They're actually used to giving. They're not used to asking. You know, to be able to just walk in and say, I'm asking for children, I'm giving you an opportunity to join. Actually, I'm walking in here with dignity and pride because I'm going to offer you more than you're going to offer me ever. You know, you're going to get a chance to participate in this incredible change for children. So really, how do you ask? A set of volunteers in Howrah, you know, they were sick of it. There was this roof that their school, the government school there didn't have. And they just couldn't do it. The CRY people were tell them that you can't do it yourself. Sorry, boss. You know, there is a budget for it. Get it done. And they just kept asking. And today they have a roof for their classroom. It took a year of persistent asking, but it happened. So it's really about saying, find out what can be done, ask the person for it, and it's amazing and unbelievable what people will do and how they will step up and how they will change your lives. Yeah? Change their lives just a little bit in order to be able to help. So really, to me, this whole exercise of putting together, and I can stand here and share for the next 25 minutes all the stories about how everything that we do. I remember we were in a terrible situation in the 2000s. There was an earthquake, and the story of how we survived that, there was an earthquake inside CRY. Because what happened was that all our donors went and gave for the earthquake. They didn't want to give for children, you know. So you suddenly didn't have money. And yet at that moment, what we saw, what I saw, what I experienced was an organization that said, okay, it's the same thing as the cards. Okay, this is not working. Is there something else we can do? And we went from there. Within 3 years, we had quadrupled our incomes. And I always believe that if we didn't go through that testing time, I'm not sure that we would have got ahead. You know, each one of you will find, I think, that in your life, there are things that you would prefer sometimes to forget, sometimes things that you prefer not to forget, but stuff that you can really learn from and say, how do I shape my future? And for me, let's make this really what we want to do. Let's start looking at everything around us. As we dream for the future, let's look at what we have, what are the stories we have, tell the stories, share the photographs, you know, and today we have an incredible sharing culture, and create and shape your future. You know, let the memories be powerful. Let them not be stories of only looking for the pain and this went wrong and that went wrong, but actually look at them as the framework in which each of us can hold who we can become. Because at any stage, you know, I am still a work in beginning. I'm still trying to invent myself. I'm trying to reinvent myself at whatever age and I am. So really, to me, let's use memories. Let's actually look at how we can create this amazing reservoir of stories that each of our lives, not just my organization, are. Thank you so much.